Search discipline on YouTube and you find videos like how to build discipline, or become addicted to discipline with these 6 strategies, or how to build unshakable discipline in 2026. The list is virtually endless, but after 5 years of serving in the health and wellness industry, I realized that the root of the problem for most, if not all of my clients, was not a lack of discipline. If you know what you want and you know what to do to get there, but you just can't get yourself to take action and follow through, I submit to you that you don't have a discipline problem, you have a friction problem. And physics has been trying to tell us that for 300 years. You see, life on Earth is governed by various principles, such as gravity or the law of thermodynamics. Personally, I believe that God designed it this way. The wonder of this is if we understand these principles, because design makes it constant and consistent, we can work with them to achieve specific results that are both predictable and precise. Apply a scientific law in a specific way, in a specific context, and the results will always be the same. This may not sound like it has anything to do with discipline, but it has a whole lot to do with friction. I'm about to show you how the laws of friction can explain why you aren't making progress in your goals, and what to do about it. Newton's first law of motion explains that an object at rest will remain at rest until an external force acts upon it. The force that keeps a resting object at rest and slows down a moving object is friction. Now, there are different kinds of friction. Static friction keeps an object from moving. It's the force that keeps you stuck. Every habit, hobby, project, side hustle, or relationship that you never started lives here. Static friction is also the hardest to overcome, and that's why starting is always the hardest part of any endeavor. Next, we have kinetic or sliding friction. Kinetic friction is easier to overcome than static friction. If you've ever pushed a surface across a flat surface, you'll know what I'm talking about. As soon as the object is moving, it's much easier to keep it going. Kinetic friction is always present though, always working against you. The moment you stop pushing, the movement stops. Kinetic friction is why 80 to 90% of New Year's resolutions fail. You start really strong, but because the friction is ever present, it ends up burning you out. It's why gyms are only full the first 3 months of the year. Why you're great at coming up with and starting on new ideas, but struggle with the follow-through. Why you're really good at the early stages of a relationship, but the moment things get serious, you end up withdrawing. We call this a lack of discipline. Physics calls it an unsustainable energy expenditure against an unresolved force. These are conditions you're almost guaranteed to fail. The solution to kinetic or sliding friction is rolling friction, which is why the invention of the wheel in axle 6,000 years ago was such a major technological advancement that we still use it to this day. Here's the magic of rolling friction. The load doesn't change, nor does the surface. A wheel completely redesigns the relationship between the object and the surface. A car tire reduces friction by 50 to 100 times compared to just dragging it along the ground. It's the same load, same destination, same road, but the difference in energy expenditure is enormous. Most people try to solve friction by pushing harder, more discipline, more motivation, more willpower. That's dragging. Rolling takes an entirely different approach. It asks, what if I change my relationship to the resistance instead of fighting it? 2 people could have exactly the same goal, schedule, and starting point. The one pushes through every session with sheer willpower. The other recognizes that they don't need more willpower, just less friction. That person isn't more disciplined, they're just rolling. An important distinction to make is that changing the relationship to the surface, or the friction that's keeping you from reaching your goal, doesn't entirely eliminate the friction. The tire doesn't roll despite friction. It moves because of the right amount and kind of friction. Put a car on ice or in mud, and all you'll have is spinning wheels. A frictionless life is a life on ice, directionless and out of control. Like a car, you need traction, where your effort is making meaningful contact with your life. The right amount and kind of friction that pushes you forward rather than holding you back. Hold traction long enough and you start building momentum. A freight train that's at a standstill is really hard to get moving. But once it's moving, it's almost impossible to stop. Not because something external changed, but because the motion itself has become a force. So if you put a small block in front of the tire of a car at standstill, it could stop the entire car from moving. But if you put that same block there, when the car is traveling 60 kilometers per hour, it'll be nothing more than a little speed bump. Once you start making progress by redesigning your relationship to the friction and building some good momentum, what once would have stopped you in your track becomes a minor inconvenience. Remember, this isn't theory. This is scientific fact, proved by physics. Now, as I noted earlier, most people treat friction as a willpower or discipline problem. Push harder, stay consistent, want it more. But as you've just seen, that just doesn't work. You can't out-muscle kinetic friction indefinitely. So how do you change your relationship to friction? Changing your relationship to friction starts with one thing: finding the source. You can't redesign for something that you haven't identified. The friction holding you back isn't random, and it's surprisingly easy to identify when you know what you're looking for. In my last video, I spoke about 7 principles you can apply to fast track your personal growth. And number 7 helps us figure out what that friction is. The principle is, your habits will always lean in the direction of your deepest desire. That means whatever your goal is, if you keep getting stuck, you have another competing desire, and your habits, unconsciously or not, are leaning in that direction. You have to remember that all behavior is positively motivated, even if that behavior is getting in the way of your current most important goal. Let's say your goal is to lose weight, but you have a habit of eating candy bars and getting fast food. Chances are that habit served you well at some point in time, or maybe it still does. Maybe you developed the habit when you just started working. You were putting in long hours to climb the ranks, and making meals for yourself was simply not something you had the time for. Now you're in a better position, you've got the time to make these meals, but you're still doing it. It's not that it's really a bad habit, it just no longer serves you very well. Ordering fast food is no longer necessary, but it's just what you do, except now it's in direct conflict with your new goal. The behavior served you at one point, but it's time to let go. Knowing that allows you to redesign your relationship with the friction. Eating fast food is not a character flaw. It's just a no longer very helpful habit that can be changed. There's another layer to this though, and thankfully physics has the answer too. Think about what happens when a car is starting to pull away too fast. There's a lot of smoke and burning rubber, but the car isn't really going anywhere. Full power, zero traction, the tires are just slipping. Now, some slippage is required for peak traction, but for the average car, that's about 10 to 15%. Too much power and you push past that point and the car just doesn't go anywhere. We often do this with our own goals. It sounds something like this. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to sleep 8 hours a day, cut out all sugar, train 5 times a week, get my morning routine right, do some journaling and meditation, all while raising my kids and taking care of the household. Doesn't take very long before we say, I don't understand. I'm doing so much, but it doesn't feel like I'm getting anywhere. You've landed yourself on the opposite end of traction, distraction. You've taken on so much that all you're ending up with is smoke, noise, burning rubber, but no progress. This is where most people take their feet off the gas completely. Maybe I just don't have what it takes because I gave it my all and I got nowhere. So they quit, when all they actually need to do is less power, take smaller steps. I noted that the average car has peak traction between 10 to 15% slippage. For racing cars, this is 5 to 10%. For F1 cars, this is 3 to 5%. Past that, the car's incredible power can no longer be controlled. That's why people who are highly successful make it look so easy. They are not more capable. They've just fine-tuned their efforts to the point where one single step forward gets them 10 times the result. So what does this look like for you? Number 1, you have to find the friction that's holding you back and change your relationship to it by finding its source and then getting the right perspective on it. It's not that you're incapable or undisciplined. There's simply a competing desire that is fighting for your attention. This competing desire needs to be explored and addressed, and in so doing, you will change your relationship, reduce the friction so you can move forward. Number 2 is you keep the goal big, but you make the steps so small, it's virtually impossible not to take action on them. So ask yourself, what's the smallest step I can take to actually move me closer to my goal? That could be drinking a glass of water when you wake up. It could be writing one email. It could be watching one video on how to write better prompts for AI. The possibilities are as broad as your goal. You see, you don't need more discipline. you need less friction. To help you with that, I wrote an email series called Find Your Friction, and this guides you through the process of developing an anti-friction lifestyle. I put the link in the description. But if you found this useful, won't you drop a like just so I know I'm moving in the right direction? Or better yet, leave a comment on what you find most insightful, or if the video brought up any questions for you, put them down here. And if you want to learn more about living an anti-friction lifestyle, make sure to hit the subscribe button, as I'll be building the channel around the anti-friction framework that I use in my coaching.